All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are, for our webinar, What's Holding Back Your Managers. I'm Kirsten DeBrouwer, a learning program consultant with Capsim Management Simulations. Capsim has been around since 1985, and our Masters in Experiential Learning programs. Our programs drive several different learning objectives, including leadership development, business acumen, project management, team development, and sales enablement. And I have been with Capsim for coming on 2 years, and I have more than 10 years of experience working with our simulations. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what's holding back our managers. And we know that our managers are missing soft skills. These soft skills are the number one thing that new employers are looking for. They're looking for leadership, communication, problem solving, time management, and initiative. And we have all this great research done by these organizations like Bloomberg Business and LinkedIn that point to the necessity of these leadership skills for new hires. Now, when I say new hires, I don't just mean people right out of school. It can be experienced hires as well, or new to the organization, and or senior level hires that also need these important soft skills. Research also shows that these are the same skills that cause managers to derail in their career. And this was a 20-year study of Fortune 500 companies by the Center for Creative Leadership. And they found that these are 5 key derailers of people in their career. Basically, people don't like you. You don't know exactly what you're talking about. Nobody wants to work with you. You think you're doing just fine, and you're too worried about the numbers and not paying enough attention to what's going on around you and managing people. Now, we know this is true not only for experienced participants or experienced employees, but also for people right out of college. You would think they would have a little bit more formal training because they have an MBA, but they also need additional development of these soft skills. And one way out of this lack of soft skill is through actionable, reliable feedback, which is exactly why at Capsim we brought out CapsimInbox last year. Now, CapsimInbox is a 60-minute long experiential assessment. You get to sit as a day in the life of a manager and deal with several different emails from your coworkers, from your higher-ups, from people that report directly to you, and it measures people on how well they perform the 5 soft skills: initiating, problem solving, organizing, leading, and communicating. And we rolled this out last year, and we already have several customers that have joined us on this journey. And one piece of feedback we keep receiving over and over again is that they really like the skills that are measured in CapsimInbox, but the people side is missing. Many of the managers are failing to apply these skills to managing people. So we thought there's got to be another way to do this, so we came up with CapsimInbox People Management. And this version of CapsimInbox shares the same skin, if you will, of the general management. It's still an email-based solution where you are answering questions from your direct reports, but this time you are a manager of managers. In general management, you're more of that frontline manager. The role that you're playing is a director of sales and operations. In people management, you're an associate principal at a global management consulting firm. And we use a consulting firm because it is very easily adaptable to other industries. Now, people management not only evaluates the 5 soft skills that general management evaluates, but it also looks at the human capital competencies of structuring work, acquiring talent, managing talent, and rewarding performance. And we chose these 4 competencies because these are the general categories that describe really how to manage people. Now, if you have an HR background, I'm sure you're very familiar with these 4 categories or buckets of HR management, but most of our managers in the real world do not have that HR background. They're engineers or people who have done a great job in their career, so they've been promoted, and now all of a sudden they're managing people, which is great for them, but have we really prepared them how to do that? So in order to help them become better managers and people managers, an assessment is a great way to start. The assessment starts with a self-assessment where they rate how well they perform these 5 skills, and then you actually get to go through the experiential assessment and the inbox itself. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle on over to my inbox. I did start this assessment a few minutes early, so you'll notice that my clock up here ticking down from 60 minutes is a little bit ahead of schedule, and that's because I started the assessment before our call started today or our webinar started today. Now, when you'll notice in the inbox folder, you have 22 emails to go through in these 60 minutes. If it is stressful to see this clock ticking down, you can simply click right here and it hides that clock. Now, it does not stop the clock, it is only hiding the clock, okay? You can click back to go ahead and see the clock again. Now, besides the inbox folder over here, you have a company file folder which has some great information in it. One of the things I love to keep open is this team organizational chart. And I'm going to go ahead and open this in a new window so you can actually read it. And this is an idea, gives you a better idea of who you are and who's above you. Here you are, you're the associate principal at SBS America, and above you is your managing partner, and you are managing teams of people. They are assigned to different clients, and here is what your team looks like. I'm going to go back and go ahead to the inbox here. The other thing that's helpful to look at is current clients and projects. This also gives you more details around who are your clients and what are projects that they are working on right now. So let's go ahead and click back to the assessment and take a look at some of these emails. And the first email we're going to look at today is from Gail Murphy. And Gail is one of your clients. And we're going to go ahead, I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to ask you guys to enter some information into the chat feature of GoToWebinar. There's a little box down there where you can enter some information. So I'm going to have you guys actually answer this email together. So I think that'll be really fun. So in the email, we see that it's Gail Murphy, Director of Operations. And if we click back to our current clients and projects, we can see she's working for BioTap. And we can find that information at the end of her email as well. That's how we know what client she is. And she says, Dear PM Webinar number 2. Now, it would normally be the participant going through this. It would be their name, but PM Webinar 2 was just a login that I used. And people like that because it has their name in there. And she says, I hope you're doing well. I saw your better half at the Corporate Challenge event last week. Great to reconnect. I'm having some trouble with Stasha I'm hoping you can help me with, and I'm reaching out to see what you'd recommend. In brief, Stasha has been on the project for about 13 months, and she is the model of a hard-working consultant. She shows up on time, she is always respectful to my team and I, and has always kept me on the loop on what's going on. She's a very hard worker. I've noticed, however, that the project reports she's turning in don't seem to be matching up with the metrics we're pulling from our customers. I brought this to her attention 2 months ago, and she seemed surprised by it. She apologized and told me that the problem was fixed and that it wouldn't happen again. Unfortunately, I'm still getting calls from customers about the mismatch in data reporting. Last week, I decided to dig around and see what was going on, and I put Jerome, my go-to analysis guy, on the case to see what was happening. His report suggested that Stash is coding all the raw data incorrectly. I'm not sure how this could be happening when your firm created the process and the code. She's been trained up on it and even had a refresher training. You know I'm loyal to you and the firm, and everyone really likes Stasha, but I'm not sure we can keep this up much longer. I'm now dedicating my staff's time to the work I'm paying your firm to complete. Let me know your thoughts when you have a chance. So you have a pretty unhappy client here. All of these emails in people management are going to address managing people issues. And they're all going to relate to one of those 4 buckets of people management or HR competencies, okay? And when you're done reading the email, at the bottom, there are 5 choices. Now, I just want to mention that all of these emails and the instant messages and all the choices went through several rounds of content validity. We worked with several organizational psychologists who made sure that these emails and the questions and their answers and the instant messages match up to the 5 skills that we're trying to measure for managers and also the 4 HR competencies. So when I look at this email, there are 5 options at the bottom. You can choose option number 1, reply to Gail and let her know that you will be paying for Stasha to go through additional training. Option number 2, reply to Gail to let her know that you will reassign Stasha to another project and replace her. Option number 3, reply to Gail and let her know that you'll be providing a cash incentive to Stasha to improve her work. Number 4, reply to Gail and let her know that you will be providing a cash incentive to, I'm sorry, I think I lost my train of thought. Number 4, reply to Gail and ask her to give Stasha some additional time to try to correct the problems herself. Number 5, reply to Gail and let her know that you would be happy to pay for Jerome to take on this work if resources are not available. Now, I'm going to scroll up just for a second for the email here, and you've got your 5 choices down here. I want you to go ahead and enter into the chat area of the GoToWebinar. If I pull mine over here, there's this chat area right here. I would like you guys to answer number 1 through 5 of how you would handle this email if you were going through the CapsimInbox people management. Once again, I'm going to scroll up a little bit, give you just a quick 10 or 15, 20 seconds to take a look at the email, and then I'll scroll back down to the options, and I would love to see what you guys are going to decide. So one more time, the options again: pay for Stasha to go through trainings, number 1. Number 2 is replace her. Number 3 is reply to Gail and let her know you'll be providing a cash incentive. Number 4 is reply to Gail and ask her to give Stasha some time. And number 5 is reply to Gail and let her know you would be happy to pay for Jerome to take on this work if resources are not available. So go ahead and enter your answers now, 1 through 5, in the chat section, and we'll see what everyone decides. I'm going to scroll up again so you can take a look at the email again. And this particular email falls into the bucket of managing talent when it comes to the human resource competency that matches it. Okay, looks like I got a few answers in here. And it looks like everybody wants to, a majority of people anyway, want to reply to Gail and let her know that you will be paying for Stasha to go through additional training. Well, this email, that choice is a good choice, you might think, when it comes to the employee. The problem is that Gail has already been in this position for 13 months. She's already had some additional training. 2 months ago, this was brought to her attention. And this is a case where we have skills versus motivation. And she's very motivated. We know that from the email. She shows up on time, which is great. But the problem is that, that she just doesn't have the skill set to really do this effectively. So rather than give her additional training or rather than giving her a cash incentive, which someone else chose, it's time to replace her with another consultant. And it looks like we had a few people that got that answer correct. And it's a big customer, so it's time to put the customer's needs above the employee's needs. Now, the next email I want to show you is from Fred. And we go up here. What's nice is that the email come in, it's not just a name, but it also gives their title so you can see who it's from. I should have mentioned, I apologize, to reply to this email, you go ahead and click in the button here, click respond, and you've now replied to that email. When I look at this email from Fred, this is a really long email, and don't worry, I am not going to read it to you today, but I just want to mention that once again, your managers going through this may not have HR training or an HR background. So this email from your managing partner here, Fred, is really giving you some more information about evidence-based practices for people who don't have that training already. And it gives you some some guidance and a little bit of insight that might help you as you're going through the inbox. So this is one of those emails, and there's 4 or 5 of them for people management that you need to look at hopefully within the first 15 minutes of going through the inbox, because you receive some extra positive points if you go through what we feel are the most important email and that research shows are the most important emails to answer first. So Fred here in this big long email is giving you a lot of information that can help guide you as you go through this people management inbox. Now, if you are going to be using this inbox with a bunch of people that already have HR background, you may want to eliminate this email. If they don't have that HR background and aren't familiar though with HR management practices, this is great at level setting them. Okay, so the next email we're going to take a look at is down here at the bottom, and it's from Javier. And Javier is saying, I'll just kind of paraphrase this for you. They have 4 candidates for a new role, and he has uploaded a bunch of information about each one of these candidates to the file drive, and he would like you to take a look and answer his email of who he should hire. And the choices, as I scroll down below, are 5 different choices, the 4 candidates, and then your last chance is to push it back to Javier and have him recommend making the final choice. So in order to help me figure out who I want to recommend, I come over here and I open up the Junior Assessment Candidate Summary. And let me pop this open in a new window so that you can actually take a look at it. And there is a lot of information about each one of these candidates. You have their education, their work experience, background checks, where the team ranks them, how well they did in interviews, lots of information in here. So if you looked at this file and went back and forth and looked at the email from Fred Washington, your managing partner, you would be able to make a decision then about which one of these candidates you would choose, and you would go ahead and click in there. And just in case you're curious, the correct candidate according to HR-based evidence principles is Avery Dodd. Okay? So we took a look at 3 emails, and I want to come over here and show you some instant messages. Now, the instant messages can be informational, or they can have a question also with them. So this one's from Jordan Carter-Locke, who it turns out is your assistant, and she's asking you some question, giving you some information, and just like the emails, you go ahead and choose which one you want to select to answer and go ahead and click reply. And she has another question for you, and you can scroll up and down to see the email or see the instant messages and go ahead and click reply. And when you're done with those, you can kind of close those off so they're no longer taking up your space. Now, when you are done with the people management or general management, the system is awesome because it pops up really big and huge that you are done. Click for what you want to do next. So let me just forward a little bit here in my presentation. When they're done, they get immediate, instant feedback, which is wonderful. And the feedback report comes in 4 main sections. Now, it is slightly different than the general management report, and I'll tell you where in just a moment. It starts with your overall score, and this person scored in the 67th percentile. They're a pretty good manager, It means that they are better than about 66, 67% of their peers, but they still have a little bit of work to do to improve those skills. The next thing is a rating for the competencies. And this is where they are rated from a scale of 0 to 100 on how well they performed in the different competencies in structuring work, acquiring talent, managing talent, and rewarding performance. Below that is the self-awareness score. At the very beginning of this assessment, before they start anything, they evaluate how well they feel they perform at these 5 skills when compared to their peers. Okay, and it's the 5 skills of down here at the bottom: organizing, leading, problem solving, communicating, and initiating. And then down here at the bottom in this last bit, this skill gap, we can see how well where they rated themselves versus how well they actually performed in the CapsimInbox. So if we look at initiating down here, this person thought they were at a 75% for initiating, and it turns out that they're at a 24%. So they're actually coming in lower than they thought. So to me, this is a really exciting part in the meat and potatoes of this feedback and this assessment, because it shows where they may have some of those skill gaps. They're not performing at the level that they thought they were performing at. I should mention the self-awareness score. I forgot to say up here that the higher the number, it means the closer your assessment of yourself versus how CapsimInbox rated you. The lower the number, it means you are not as self-aware. So now that we got this feedback report and it's full of all of this great information, what do I do with it? Well, you put together an individual development plan, and the system walks you through this automatically. And it starts with a reflection. So first, you have these development tactics. I should go back a second, and you can decide which one of these skills you want to develop. Now, you get the score again and how highly you need to develop them. And if you click Improve, you're walked through the process for that skill. So it begins with reflection. Why is this skill important to me today? Why is it going to be important to me in 10 years? How is it important to me outside of work? Then it also makes you set a goal once you've thought about that goal. Now, we all know how difficult it is to get our employees to put together those SMART goals, so the system automatically does it for you. They have to pick a date. They have to pick a percentage that they want to improve these skills. They have to pick how are they going to measure these skills. And at the bottom, down here, a SMART goal is put together automatically for them. So now that they've thought about the skill and reflected on it and set a goal, it's now time to create an action plan to meet this goal. And this plan has several steps in it, and they can add steps and go in and modify steps. And before we would implement this at any organization, we would sit down with you and talk about what training do you already have available at your organization that maps to these skills. We want people to utilize what you already have, whether it's your LMS or it's in-person classes. And if you don't have those resources available to you in your organization, we can help suggest some resources for you. Okay? So you've got your individual development plan, which is similar and is the same as the general management plan. I showed you the tool. We talked about the evidence-based feedback. We talked about not only do they get this evidence science feedback, but how do they implement it through the individual development plan. And now it's up to them to go ahead and grow and improve these skills using the training that you already have available at your organization or some recommendations that we can make. Now, you're probably wondering, is this evidence-based? And I can tell you that yes, it is. I mentioned a little bit earlier about content validity, that all of the emails, answers, instant messages all went through several rounds of content validity with industrial organizational psychologists. And this is just to make sure that these emails are accurately measuring these skills and accurately measuring the people management competencies that we looked at. So we've looked at the tool and we now know it's science-based. You're probably wondering, does it work? What happens? Well, I can show you that we have, yes, this tool works, and it has something called predictive validity. And what that means is there are several tests that you can give to an employee or a manager, and those tests are listed here on the left-hand side. And on the right is the correlation of predictor to validity. What this means is how well does this test evaluate somebody's skills versus what their supervisor or manager evaluates as their skill level. And CapsimInbox comes out at a 39, which is a great number, and we're very excited about that. There are two things that come in a little bit higher than CapsimInbox. They are cognitive ability tests, which simply looks at how well can they solve problems, can they handle issues that come up. But it doesn't look at can they lead, can they communicate, do they initiate? Do they know how to reward talent? It just looks at can they solve problems. A job tryout for this test, for this research we looked up, their job tryout was 3 to 6 months long, which is a really long time. So you're wrapping up a lot of money and a lot of time on someone to find out whether they're going to be good in their job. Capsim Inbox, it's 60 minutes long, and it does a great job at predicting how well your employees are performing. And then there's just some other tests listed down below as well. Now, I want to go back and talk about leadership development just for a moment. This is a fun graph that basically says the fewer skills you overrate yourself on a leader, the better leader you are. And I just want to, talk about these people and these management competencies that derail them. The value of an objective assessment is really how well does it evaluate these skills. And you want one that provides actionable feedback in the form of evidence-based development tactics. And that's what CapsimInbox does. And if you're wondering about this study, it's using a 360-degree feedback data describing 69,000 managers, that's a lot of managers, as seen through 750,000 respondents. Okay? Now, if you're thinking, Kirsten, this is awesome, I really like it, but people at my company may not feel like they are managers of a consulting firm. Is there anything we can do to customize this? CapsimInbox is very customizable. You can very easily customize the email, instant messages, employee customer roles, update or add documents to that little file folder, or change the name of a skill. Say at your organization, instead of communicating, you use openness. Okay, those are very easy changes so that we can do very quickly. Now, if you tell me that's awesome, but I have 10 leadership competencies I want to have my people evaluated on, or I want to completely change the storyline and add new emails and instant messages and alter the individual development plan or the feedback report, we can absolutely do that. It's just going to be a little bit more development time. Okay? So that comes to the end of our quick little half-an-hour webinar today. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in, or my contact information is up here as well, my phone number and my email. You can always reach out to me with any questions, or if you would like to see either CapsimInbox People Management or the CapsimInbox General Management version in more details, I am more than happy to set up a time with you to do that. But I want to thank you so much again for taking the time today, and I'll just hold on for another minute or so and see if we have any questions that come in.